You know, when you think about the most powerful person in the world, you probably think of the President of the United States, right? But what if I told you that the very roots of that power, the family trees of some of America's most influential leaders, trace back to a tiny, flat country in Europe famous for its windmills, tulips, and canals? That's right. We're talking about the Netherlands. And the Dutch connection to the White House is way deeper than you might imagine. Let's start with a name you definitely know: Roosevelt. Not one, but two. American presidents, Theodore Roosevelt and Franklin D. Roosevelt, were direct descendants of Dutch settlers who arrived in America way back in the 1600s. Their ancestor, Klaus Martensen van Roosevelt, which literally means from the rose field, sailed from the Netherlands and settled in what was then called New Amsterdam. Think about that for a second. Without that one Dutch family deciding to cross the Atlantic, America might never have had Teddy, the trust-busting national park-creating force of nature. And we might never have had FDR, the man who led the nation through the Great Depression and World War II, serving an unprecedented 4 terms. The Roosevelts didn't just occupy the presidency, they fundamentally shaped modern America. And their story starts in a Dutch rose field. But it doesn't stop there. Let's talk about another presidential dynasty, the Bushes. George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush can also trace their lineage back to the early Dutch community in New York. This connection is a bit more complex, weaving through various family lines. But genealogists have linked them to the Schuyler family, one of the most prominent Dutch families in colonial America. And here's a fun one: Martin Van Buren, the 8th U.S. president. His connection isn't just a distant ancestor. He was the only president in U.S. history whose first language was not English. What did he speak? Dutch? He grew up in a Dutch-speaking community in Kinderhook, New York, and learned English as a second language. The fact that a Dutch-speaking kid could grow up to become President of the United States shows just how profound the Dutch influence was on early American society. So, why is this? It goes back to the 17th century, when the Dutch Republic was a global superpower. They established the colony of New Netherland, with its capital New Amsterdam, which you now know as New York City. Even after the English took over in 1664, the Dutch families who stayed behind became the bedrock of New York's aristocracy. They were wealthy, influential, and their descendants were perfectly positioned to become leaders in the new nation that would eventually emerge. From the Roosevelts, who redefined presidential power, to Van Buren, who brought his native Dutch tongue to the White House, to the Bush family dynasty, the legacy of this small European nation is woven directly into the fabric of American leadership. It's a powerful reminder that history is a web of surprising connections, and the story of the world's most powerful office has a distinct and very fascinating Dutch accent.